Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara,
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 Sukkah Kara Dukkha Hara 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 Shiva Shankara,
Sukkah Kara Dukkha Hara 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 Shiva Shankara,
Sukkah Kara Dukkha Hara 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 Shiva Shankara,
Sukkah Kara Dukkha Hara 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 Shiva Shankara. Om Namah Shivaya.
Try that.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara,
Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara, Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara, Hey Shiva Shankara, Hey Maheshwara,
Sukkah Kara Dukkha Hara 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 Shiva Shankara,
Sukkah Kara Dukkha Hara 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 Shiva Shankara, Sukkah Kara Dukkha Hara 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 Shiva Shankara,
Sukkah Kara Dukkha Hara 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 Shiva Shankara.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Clap with me. Clap, clap. There we go. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya. Everybody sing. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya. Just a little louder. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah. One more. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Amen. It's always delightful to be here, even though this is my first time. Actually, I was here at an earlier service this morning. several people dozed off, which, it used to be that I would get upset if I'm talking and people sleep. And in the world we live in, man, if I can provide a space where people can get some rest. You just watch what's going on in your mind. The mind is this marvelous instrument, without which we couldn't get around in this world. However, the mind only knows by contrast. We wouldn't know up if we didn't know down. We wouldn't know good if we didn't know bad. We wouldn't know sweet if we didn't know bitter. If everything went great in our lives all the time, we'd never know it. We'd never know it because we know by contrast. That's a brain. The problem is when we think our brain is us. When we fail to appreciate the wonder of our mind, and we think we're supposed to change it. Change your mind. I love the instructions, get your mind quiet. Nope. No. No. The invitation is to love our minds enough so that we can own them and not be misled by them, so that we can utilize that contrast in places where we need it and just kind of carry it along with us in places where we don't. It's very interesting. In lieu of creativity, I look at the Torah portion of the week. Torah, of course, specifically is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. In Christian language, it's the first 5 books of the Old Testament. It's the books that are written on the scroll, handwritten still. And they're sectioned so that there's a section of those 5 books that's read every week during a year, so that every year we read through the whole Torah. And of course, if we fail to see this year something we didn't see before, then we know we're stuck. Because Torah, like any authentic spiritual literature, is a reflection of the spiritual beings through whom it flowed. And the essential nature of a spiritual being is that spiritual beings have unlimited levels of transcendence. Unlimited levels of transcendence. Unlimited levels of consciousness. And every time we think we've gotten there, we're stuck. Because there's no there. There's just here. And here is always process. People come to the now as if the now is this thing. The Greek philosopher who said you can't step into the same river twice, I am absolutely convinced you can't step into the same river once. It's never the same river, because now is always a process. It's always a process. To be in the now is to be here in this process, not in this thing, not in this. Otherwise, we kind of go crazy. We're in this now. So I looked at the Torah portion, and this week the Torah portion the Torah portion essentially starts on Sunday and ends the following Shabbat, ends the following Saturday night. And it's the meeting on the mountain that incredible story of Moses leading us to this mountain of revelation. Incredible. It has in this portion the first time the 10 principles are written. And then I came to this building this morning, and I look at it, and it's a mountain. And I wondered, how does the Center for Spiritual Living do that? I mean, if I was impressed before, I am really... It's a little different mountain. I mean, in the story, the mountain is quaking. There's thunder, there's lightning, it's awesome. Pyrotechnics, meant for story. Great story. Whew. And the revelation. Learning something, finding something, awakening to something that we didn't know before. Revelation. Now, there's various kinds of revelation. One is the kind of revelation we get every time we look at a newscast. And we go, I don't believe that. What? And that is a level of revelation, but the revelation that the mountain speaks to and the revelation that this place opens to, that's a different kind of revelation. That revelation opens from the unlimited territory of inside rather than the limited territory of outside. It opens from the spaces beyond the mind, behind the mind, beneath, above the mind. There's a difference between revelation and all other forms of communication. All other forms of communication happen at a specific time and at a specific place. We could hear it, we could write it down, we could repeat it, we could, whatever we do with it, it happened at a particular time, at a particular place. Revelation is different because revelation is happening all the time. Revelation is like some kind of cosmic radio station that is available for those who are tuned in. Revelation is like that level of consciousness that is available when we relax ourselves enough to get detached from the unlimited commentary with which we greet our world. I mean, you know that you're always talking to yourself, right? You know that if you had a friend who was talking to you like you are talking to yourself, you would not want to be with that friend. We are remarkable beings. It's much safer to look at the negative because the worst that could happen is we'll get surprised and something good will happen. But we're afraid on some level of consciousness to expect the good because of how much it can hurt. A guy named Richard Adams, he's the author of a book for which he's much better well known called Watership Down. He wrote a book called The Unbroken Web. And it's a book of little myths, little fables. But in the introduction, he posits the existence of a sphere of evolving consciousness which surrounds this planet. Now, I'm not much on the literalness of how far up is that sphere, and it's not about that. It's about, we live in the midst of an evolution of physicality and an evolution of consciousness. They're not separated. They are expressions of different levels of consciousness and different levels of energy. And for those people who are tuned into the radio station of that consciousness, we touch things. We are touched by things. And the interesting thing is that which we are touched with actually doesn't seem like something different from us. But then we translate it into words, we translate it into symbols, and then we think that God talks. And to some people, God talks in Hebrew, and to some people, God talks in Arabic, and to some people, God talks in Sanskrit, and to some people, God talks in English. I am among those who believes God does not talk. I believe people talk. And I believe that what we do is when we touch those sacred spaces of revelation, when something opens for us, oh, every one of you knows those moments. It's like opening to what had been a blind spot, opening to that which you just didn't have, you didn't see, you didn't hear, you didn't know. And maybe that opening on a literal level takes very little time. But then when you try to translate it, not only does it take a lot of time and a lot of words, but in some ways it doesn't end. In some ways it goes on. Sometimes I look at the Torah, which is the heart of my tradition, and I see it as an incredibly large zip file that just keeps unfolding. It keeps unfolding. Consciousness keeps unfolding. So we have moments of connection which we translate as best we can into words. And at the meeting of the mountain, God bless you. I'm very easily distracted. Many years ago, my wife and I were at a church somewhere south of Seattle, and I was giving a talk, and somebody sneezed, and I said, "God bless you," and people applauded and thought I was done talking. And I had a choice. Like, I looked at Ruth, and she knew I wasn't done. So I sat down. And now I get to wonder, what exactly was I talking about before somebody sneezed? So something happens at that mountain. If you look at the text, all there is there's thunder, there's lightning, there's quaking of the mountain, everybody's terrified. The only sound is the sound of the shofar, the sound of the ram's horn. And in the story, the life of the story, I believe that's what was heard. But from that, someone woke up and said what gets called the 10 Commandments. In the Torah, they're never called commandments. They're called principles or words, because they're not commandments. They're like operating. It's like, here's an operating manual for how this world works. If you want things to work, this is how. And there's 10 of them. And of course, the Midrash, which is later legendary material, says that, why did God give those 10 to the Hebrew people? One of the smallest, less important people of the planet. And their story in the Midrash is that, well, God tried to give it to a bunch of other people, and they said, what's in it? And whenever he said what was in it, they said, we can't do that because killing is a part of our culture, or adultery is a part of our culture, or stealing is a part of our culture. And finally, he went to the Israelites, and he said, I have some commandments. And they said, how much are they? And God said, they're free. And they said, we'll take 10. Now, you got to be careful. You got to be Jewish to tell that story. But I want to talk about the first one, the first principle. Sometimes in some of the, they're numbered differently in Jewish, Protestant, and Catholic traditions. Because in the Bible, it doesn't say 1, 2, 3. I mean, the whole thing is fascinating, what we do with stuff. What's number 1 in Jewish tradition doesn't sound at all like a commandment. It sounds like a principle. I am is the eternal one, your God, who brought you out and brings you out of an enslavement in Egypt and frees you from every house of bondage. That's the whole thing. If all we had was that, if we could get it, I am. I came upon a phrase the other night that I didn't know if it would work in sharing it with you. I asked Ruth whether it would work. She didn't think so. When I came here this morning, I asked Michael, Reverend Michael Ingersoll, a really wonderful human being. I asked him if he thought it would work, and he thought it would work. I think it worked for around 60% of the early service. I took a vote. I'm not going to do that this time. I was thinking that we go astray with this notion that God is king, like King of Kings. And we think we're saying, Your Highness. And we've misheard it. It's really Your I-ness. It's a problem with language. Do you know that every pronoun we use requires a duality? He requires a she, you requires a me, they requires a we. The only pronoun that is unitive, the only pronoun that is one, the only pronoun that's universal is first person singular. At the burning bush, the story is great. Moses asked God, what's your name? People are going to know what your name is. Nobody ever asks him, actually, but he hears, Ehiyah Asher Ehiyah. My name is I am as I am. Absolutely inclusive identity, of which each of us is a reflection. And it is through our I-ness that we are connected. We are connected. Sometimes when I'm doing a workshop, I ask people to count off, but I ask people to count off by 1. No, I really. I'm actually going to ask you to do that. I ask people to count off at 1 and really hear it. We each are one. And I say, So from now on, every time you see another person, you could say, there goes another one. Because our conscious mind it's so clear that we're separate, we're not connected. But that's the perception that allows us to maneuver in the material world. That's not the perception that allows us to maneuver in the spiritual world. And that's not the perception that allows us to awaken to profound love. And it's not the perspective that allows us to awaken to deep acceptance. And it's not the perspective that allows us to realize the one we are. The authenticity of identity is the way out of every stuckness. And ultimately the stuckness, the name of the stuckness is ego. If I think this is all I am, then I'm constantly in a frame of defensiveness. I'm always looking out for threats. I'm always comparing myself to others. I'm always looking for the magic fix. I was looking at the book titles. I love spiritual books. One book will take you there in 40 days. Another book just wants 5 principles. And I got taught years ago from one of my early teachers, Ken Kais Jr., that it sometimes takes 5 years to fully awaken. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do it that long. I want a book that says 2 weeks. Well, that's 45 years ago, his 5-year comment, and well, he was a little on the low side. Because every moment holds the possibility of hearing. Every moment holds the possibility of being. Every moment holds the possibility of tuning in to that frequency that is evolving to offer us exactly the I-ness that we require. Oh, it's not so much to make our separate selves other than our separate selves. It's what we require to open to a culture of kindness. It's what we require to open to a civility of love. It's what we require to open to the natural expression of compassion and kindness in our world. And it's up to each and every one of us. And the good news is that because we're one, we have everything we need to awaken. We have everything we need to love. We have everything we need to be kindness. So I'd like you to all count off together. 1. Can I hear your number?
1.
Okay, once more.
1.
Oh, I'm so delighted to be one with you. Thank you, folks.